welcome back to Insight. I'm joined now by Nate Heffel from D.O. McComb & Sons, and we're going to talk about pre-planning. We've talked about this a few times before, and we talk about how when you're in the situation where something has happened to one of your family members, it's not the time when you want to have to be doing that. You're emotional, especially if it's sudden, something you weren't expecting. Maybe the person's not elderly, or it was an accident situation. So let's talk about why pre-planning is so important.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that it allows families the time long before you're in the situation you just discussed to have the ability to make the arrangements and discuss what options are available, and basically just kind of work through what's really appropriate as opposed to what you just said, having to make sure that you do all those things the right way under those circumstances. It's really difficult, obviously. Having the ability to, again, to sit down, go through that when there isn't the stress of a loss in your life is a huge benefit to families. I used to hear this all the time. As part of our program, we would follow up with families after a service, and they would constantly mention that they just weren't sure they did the right thing. And that's really what it's about. It's making sure that what we do is appropriate, that your wishes are certainly a big part of that. So if you're out of the equation, it's hard for you, obviously, to have an input there. And we want to meet you under circumstances where there isn't that stress and that loss. And again, long before that event ever occurs. And that's ideal for you and the families that we serve, certainly, and for us as well. Because typically what happens is we would have all of the information there at the funeral home, and then when the family arrives, we're just picking up where the individual that made the arrangements left off. The nice thing is regardless of what they've decided and what's on paper or what we have already, they have the ability then to kind of personalize it so that it satisfies their needs as well.
Is there a certain time when I should start doing that?
Yeah.
Should I do it now? Do I wait 10 years from now? I'm 40 years old. Do I wait till I'm 50? When do I do this?
That's a great question, and we get that all the time. Today's the day to start, regardless of what age you are or what stage in life you are. We never know, certainly, when death is going to occur. So having that plan in place, just like you would have homeowners insurance or car insurance or health insurance, you have those things at an early age. You want to start early because, again, we don't know when something's going to happen, and having, again, that information on file is key to making sure that transition for your family is as smooth as possible.
How does it work? I know, like in the case of organ donation, I remember when I did that, they told me you have to make sure that your spouse knows. You have to make. Is it something I do with my spouse, or maybe is it something I do with my children so that I make sure they know, or is it something I do on my own? Yeah,
the organ donation, I think, is certainly a personal preference that people have. It doesn't affect at all what we do, just so families understand that. If they're organ donors, which I'm an advocate of that as well, that is something you certainly would want to discuss with your family, just so they're aware of it. And because having that information I think it's on your driver's license, maybe, or just not letting your family know, that can be a difficult decision for them to make, I'm sure.
And is it the same way, though? I mean, is it the same if I'm doing my funeral pre-planning? Is it the same situation where I need to make sure my family knows what I'm doing?
I would say so, yes.
Do my children need to come in with me, or does my spouse need to come in with me when I'm doing that with you?
That part of it I'm not actually involved in, so I don't know specifics to that.
But I mean in my funeral pre-planning.
Oh, absolutely. That would be perfect.
Do we do it together, or do I do it on my own?
You betcha. It's better if we have the whole family there. That way, when the time comes, there's no real discussing whether that's what they really wanted, or when the family's there, that's the best scenario. Again, when everyone's together and they're able to do it together, discuss what's available, bounce different things off of each other. That's ideal, you betcha.
And then if I change my mind, let's say I change my mind, or something happens to my spouse, and so then that changes the way I want things done because my spouse passed away before me. Can I change my plans?
Yeah, even if you've prepaid your funeral, which many families choose to do, you still have flexibility in changing or modifying things to your desires and your wishes. And of course, you can change the the planning documents that we have at the funeral home all the time, anytime that you want to, really.
And your website really is the best place to kind of start
You
this
betcha.
process.
Yeah, and if you're not that tech savvy, a phone call to the funeral home. We have what we call trusted advisors that we have that work for the pre-planning department that are able to answer questions. Ideally, sit down with the families either in their home or at the funeral home, and basically just go over all the options that are available to them.
All right, that's the way to get it all started, and you can start that pre-planning process today. McCombsons.com or give them a call. We'll be right back on Insight.